TJ here, still flying solo during this time of COVID-19 crisis. The other day, as I was driving to work, I was listening to Hugh Hewitt on the radio. And in the first hour of his program, he read a blog written by a man by the name of Pete Bowen. Pete Bowen, prior service Marine, 11 years active duty, 13 years reserve. He was a pilot and instructor for the Harrier AV-8B jump jet. He's received a Master's of Arts from Duke, Bachelor's from University of Notre Dame. Currently resides in Orange County, California. He owns his home business as a leadership coach and counselor. And by his own definition, was doing well and considered himself to be part of the societal top 10%, which is another way of saying the ruling elite. I would like to reference parts of his blog. He begins with, I learned a few important lessons. On March 17, government ordered COVID-19 shutdowns, reduced my consulting business income to $0 overnight. Same week, 2 of his 3 daughters were laid off. He confesses to initially not being too concerned. He had financial reserves. He applied for unemployment and for a PPP loan, and PPP stands for Payroll Protection Plan, federal loan. But there was a problem. The shutdown kept getting extended, and the government promises began to fall flat. He writes, as a sole owner, LLC, I had to wait until Friday, April 10th, to apply for a PPP loan. I didn't get access to an online application until Tuesday night, April 15th. By then, the PPP money was already gone. He shares with us how his unemployment was denied. One of the reasons given was his excessive earnings, and he cites an example of his, how he on one occasion charged $145 for a 35-minute telephone call with a client. He did receive $2,400 for him and his wife, but he writes, here in Orange County, California, that's about 10 days of living expenses for a family of 4 at the low income level. He reiterates how the government ordered shutdown took away all his income. There's no PPP money, no EIDL money. EIDL stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. He's denied unemployment and he has no business income. He writes, we're in trouble. He wonders how he's going to get a job or jobs that equal $50 an hour that would equal the low income level ... in Orange County. He references a friend of his, a school teacher, a hairdresser, who is engaged in what he referred to as the black market economy. Around here we would call it the underground economy, something that's been around for decades. He asks, how is she going to make $2,000 for rent by May 1st, let alone buy food? He references another friend whose wife defeated stage 4 cancer but now has a compromised immune system. She is working in a grocery store because their fear of COVID-19 is outweighed by their need for income. He references how politicians blithely talk about shutdowns lasting 6, 12, or even 18 months. How the government help might last 2.5 months, if it even comes. And you're hit in the face with a new reality. Some of his friends, he cites, have received PPP money and explained to him with some condescension that they are sorry he's in that spot, But this is all necessary to keep the pandemic down. The message comes across as, and he writes, if you just understood how important all this is, you wouldn't feel this way. You know, you need to get more informed. You need to adjust your thinking. So he writes. Again, he confesses how initially he felt safe with his financial savings. I was socially distanced from the impact of shutting down our economy. Now that the government promises have fallen flat, and my path appears to come up short, my Marine Corps response to them being the government, are you shitting me? He cites lesson 1 that he has learned. Lesson 1. I was reminded that as much as I think I understand the pain of others, there is a big difference when I'm actually in it. Leading to lesson 2. The top 10% of this nation, which he confesses he was a part of. The top 10% of this nation are overconfident, self-absorbed, and smug. We are highly educated but lack wisdom. We have degrees from prestigious universities. We value pure intellectual knowledge over wisdom and are the worse for it. He continues to opine on lesson 2. My CEO friends who got millions in PPP money are blind to the possibility that they are just a few months behind me. He continues further. When you feel financially safe, it's easy to be insensitive to what's happening to tens of millions. It's easy to lecture. The shutdown is so much more important than the economy. He cites 25 million unemployed. I'll go with that stat. And then he cites in Los Angeles County how only 45% of the residents have jobs. Another stat I'll go with. He asks, how would you feel if the PPP money your law firm or business just received ran out? All your clients called. They can't pay your bills. You have zero receivables. You need $7,000 a month in Southern California to survive at the low-income level. That ought to get some of y'all's attention. You need $7,000 to live in California a month. You only receive $800 a month for unemployment, if you're approved. Political leaders nonchalantly mention the shutdown will go 6 to 10 months. You have little hope of work until October. Maybe. Even if you got your job back tomorrow, you won't get a full paycheck for close to 3 weeks. With government paychecks and contracts and PPP money, we blithely lecture 100 million people that they must risk homelessness and hunger to stay safe from a virus that has a 2% mortality rate. Rush Limbaugh cited that 2% mortality rate, which, by the way, may drop as more people get tested. To those without jobs, it looks a lot like burning down the village to save it, which, by the way, is a phrase taken from the Vietnam War. I touched on that phrase in a previous solo segment. Special Forces unit was defending their position against the VC, bombed the heck out of the village to keep the VC from overrunning their position. But I digress. Brings us to lesson 3. Wisdom demands honest, good faith discussion and decision making about the whole problem, not just one part of the problem. We, speaking of him, the politicians in the top percent, fear that hospitals are swamped with COVID-19 patients. We might not get the treatment we want for our heart attack. Besides, we threw money at the unemployed. We checked that box. Now it's time to lecture them about how important it is for them to stay isolated. How disappointed we are if they raise their voice and complain. We've never invited them to the discussion. We've never asked them what they think. We've never actively listened to them or tried to feel what they're going through. Why would we listen? We're more educated than they are. We know more. So writes Pete Bowen. He concludes his blog with this. A week ago, I would have said reflexively, let's take our time to open the economy as it becomes safe. I felt comfortable, confident, and educated saying it. Today, I'll tell you that as bad as the risks are, and they are really bad, we need to give the same attention to our brothers and sisters getting hurt by this shutdown. Those are the lessons I've learned the hard way. Maybe they are the lessons we all can think about. So writes Pete Bowen. I really encourage everyone to read his blog. I just cited a portion of it. But please, you can find his blog at petebowen.net under the blog section, petebowen.net. And interested in what your thoughts are on Pete Bowen's blog. My name's TJ, signing off. Be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.